What you
Right,
recording?
so turn on, G.
Alright.
Right, so turn like that.
Yeah, I see it.
Pasto.
What that is?
Ubo.
That's Rich.
Back up. Everybody back up. 421 run, kicks in, modified. Good, bro. Guys, give space. Just stay right there.
They said don't speak on Mac. That nigga a rat. Y'all talking about Max. Don't get me started on my boy, folks. That nigga told. I remember before I went to jail in 2017, right? That nigga said, like, look down, folks, you gonna get caught before me.
One afternoon in August 2018, Christopher Jackson, also known as C Money, Killer Chris, or Mad Max, prepared to move into his mother's apartment in the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago. At around 3 p.m., however, Mad Max's plans were cut short. After being shot in the arm and body, Mad Max spent an entire month in the hospital where he would eventually succumb to his wounds. While he was under the effects of the medication he was given at the hospital, police extracted a confession from him that would completely change the course of the investigation. The day was Friday, August 3rd, 2018, a day that kicked off what would later become known as the most fatal weekend in Chicago of 2018, and one of the most saddest in its history. Over the following 3 days, more than 60 people would be shot, and a dozen hits would be committed in the city, spreading fear and panic among its citizens. For Mad Max, however, it was just another ordinary day as he prepared to move back into his mom's apartment on the 7600 block of South Kingston Avenue in the South Shore neighborhood. The months leading up to that day had been full of uncertainty and tension, as Mad Max had recently been arrested for his alleged involvement in the grisly hit of rival Black Mob rapper Shoota Shells, who had been shot in the face almost 20 times in July 2017 and left to pass away on the street, a case so gruesome that even the FBI had to get involved. Although he had been released on the basis of insufficient evidence, it was only a matter of time before the FBI gathered enough information to put him in jail for a long time, perhaps forever. But things never even got to that point, for in the middle of the afternoon that day in August, Mad Max's life was brutally cut short. At around 3 p.m., the 23-year-old was standing in his mother's building courtyard when he suddenly heard gunfire. Throughout his life, Mad Max allegedly played a role in an insane amount of hits as part of his affiliation to the No Limits gang, with some sources claiming the official number of bodies he hit was 13. As someone who wasn't unfamiliar to the street life, the sound of gunfire was most likely not enough to scare Mad Max, but before he knew it, he had a bullet going through his arm and body. Immediately after the incident, a witness called the police to report the shooting, and officers from the Chicago Police Department arrived shortly after to assess the situation. After being found slumped over on the street, Mad Max was rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center to receive emergency care. As he was being transported to safety, the remaining police officers located several shell casings that would later prove key to the resolution of the case. For an entire month, police described his condition in the hospital as stable. However, the reality was far more concerning, as Mad Max was actually in critical condition and on the brink of losing his life. For 30 days, Mad Max fought for his life at the hospital, but sadly, he succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased at 1:36 p.m. on September 3rd, exactly a month after the shooting. At his funeral, other gang affiliates, including G Herbo, were seen shedding tears for their fallen No Limits brother. After his passing was confirmed, several of Mad Max's followers posted on Instagram and other social platforms honoring the rapper and boasting about his many hits on behalf of his gang. Following the farewell service, a few NLMB members even paid for a plane to fly a banner over the terror town in Chicago, reading "C Money NLMB for life." Mad Max had become involved with No Limits from a very young age and was taught the way of the streets by his uncles. After losing his dad in 2007, they were the ones who would take care of educating him on how to get away with anything, a skill he would make good use of as he grew older. After both of his uncles were murdered, Max lost any kind of guidance guidance in his life except for his mother, who couldn't keep him away from the street life by herself and could only watch in pain as her son began to rack up several hits in the streets. Throughout the few months following his passing, the praise and honor would continue to rain down on Mad Max's name, as other rappers like G Herbo would later release songs shouting him out and immortalizing his memory. However, members of rival gangs were obviously not as kind to the memory of the fallen Mad Max, with opponents like Prince Cutthroat releasing tracks like Cappin' while Mad Max was still in the hospital. In the music video for that track, Prince and his fellow gang members counted down from 150 for each deceased opponent NLMB had lost. Shortly after his passing, police released a report in which they mentioned that as he lay on his deathbed, Mad Max managed to give a videotaped confession on August 10th as he identified his assailants as Terrell Webb, better known to the world as Hell Rell or Big Lakeside, a senior member of the rival Lakeside gang. In a moment of recklessness, as soon as the report was released, Hell Rell himself uploaded the video to social media and labeled Mad Max as a snitch. As it would later be publicly revealed, Hell Rell had already been interrogated for the hit after a bystander mentioned to the police that he had seen a man with a black hoodie run away from the scene of the crime with a handgun on the day of the shooting.
So did you guys, Kid waved us down. Hey, guy in a black hoodie with dreads was just shooting at someone.
Yeah, he's in custody. Where's the, did you pick it up or no?
It's in my pocket.
That same day, police questioned him regarding his involvement in the incident, and he claimed that he had found the handgun on the street. However, police would later find surveillance footage of Hell Rell running in the street close to the scene of the crime at the time of the hit, which directly contradicted his statement. Moreover, the handgun he was found with turned out to be a perfect match for the shell casings that were found near Mad Max's body. Despite the convincing evidence against him, Hell Rell was initially released without charges because Mad Max was still alive at that point. However, 11 days after the shooting, an attempted hit warrant was issued and Rell decided to flee. It wasn't until August 28th, more than 3 weeks after the shooting initially took place, that he would once again be located and detained in Iowa. Because Mad Max had passed away from his injuries while Rell was being held in police custody, the attempted first-degree hit charge was immediately upgraded to a first-degree hit charge. Around this time, a video started circulating on social media of Hell Rell's reaction in the interview room after being informed by detectives that his charges would be upgraded from attempted hit to first-degree hit.
Just letting you know what's going on today, okay? Okay. All right. This isn't like a debate or anything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A GSR kit was done, a gunshot residue kit was done on you.
Yes, sir.
Ballistics test.
As he was being held in jail, Terrell Webb repeatedly expressed his frustration at the fact that he had been snitched on and continued to allege his innocence during his detainment. In an unexpected turn of events, Hell Rell was later released from prison due to lack of evidence, and his supporters and fellow gang members didn't miss the opportunity to praise him on social media and continue to label Mad Max as a rat and a snitch following his release. As for Mad Max's supporters, they repeatedly claimed that the cops had taken advantage of him while he was high on medication and in a vulnerable situation to extract a confession from him, something he would never have consented to if he had been sober and in his five senses. As a final attack, Hell Rell posted a picture on his Instagram of a t-shirt with an image of Mad Max holding several stacks of money and the word 150K printed on the front. In the caption, he taunted his deceased opponent by mentioning that was the last time he would touch any money. As it would later become clear, the t-shirt had been made for the sole purpose of being featured on Hell Rell's video for his song, Self-Explanatory, which he released in February of 2022. In the song, he dissed his deceased opponent by saying, "Won't see the day my boys get shot, and I let him snitch. You got bodies, you done popped, and you gonna tell. You must be kidding." In a later interview with YouTuber Chris Barnes, Hell Rell complained that he would be discriminated against on his court date because he was black and he would be sentenced by a white judge and a mostly white jury, considering the mountain of damning evidence that prosecutors had amassed against him, including the surveillance footage, the handgun and shell casings, and testimony from the two different eyewitnesses, as well as from Rell himself. Many viewers had trouble buying Hell Rell's story. Still, when his court date did come, he ended up getting a lot luckier than most people in the situation, as he was only sentenced to 10 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter manslaughter in the case of Mad Max, as opposed to the life in prison sentence he would have been facing if the judge had decided to rule in first-degree hit. With good behavior, he will be out of prison and on parole by 2026. Ultimately, the Mad Max incident once again showed that those who live a life of the streets are condemned to be hit by the streets. Sadly, there aren't a lot of opportunity for these rappers and gangsters to escape the street life and find less violent outlets for their rivalries in the streets. Hopefully, the brutal hit of Mad Max and the viciousness that's happening in Chicago every single day will be enough to open the eyes of lawmakers and help promote positive change in the future. Until then, rest in peace, Mad Max.